There's a Japanese doctor who lived past 100. His name was Shigeaki Hinohara, and he used to say, "A person with strong legs is never old." He believed more than most that the measure of age wasn't in the number of candles on a cake, but in the strength of our steps. I want you to pause with me on that, not just because it's poetic, but because it speaks to something we often overlook: our legs, our balance, our quiet ability to stand tall. That's where dignity lives. Not in muscles that lift heavy things, but in the ones that hold us up when we rise from bed, when we take a walk, when we stumble, and still stay on our feet. Now here's something few people talk about. 1 in every 4 adults over 65 will fall this year. It's not just a number, it's a quiet crisis. Falls don't always come from clumsiness or weakness. Often, they come from silence, the slow, invisible fading of small muscles and nerve signals that once worked without us thinking. The little reflexes that helped us catch ourselves, turn smoothly, or step confidently around a chair. They go unnoticed until they're gone. And when that fall comes, even a small one, it brings something heavier than bruises. It brings fear, and fear brings hesitation. That hesitation becomes avoidance. Fewer steps, fewer outings, more sitting. The muscles shrink, the reflexes dull, and soon, the fear becomes true. It's called the fall chain, and it's not about age. It's about what happens when we stop moving with purpose. But there's something else you should know. This spiral, it can be reversed. That's the heart of today's message. Not with complicated gym routines or exhausting workouts, but with movements designed for real life. For people who still want to pick up a pot from a low shelf, who want to walk across the yard, who want to be the first to greet a grandchild at the door without reaching for the cane. Dr. Peter Attia, another voice in modern health, speaks often about functional longevity. He doesn't mean looking fit. He means being fit for life, the life you still want to live. The kind of fitness that lets you reach, bend, balance, and recover, because life is full of moments that don't wait for us to prepare. So today, I want to show you 5 simple, powerful movements, not just to prevent a fall, but to prevent the fear of falling. These are not exercises made for young athletes. They are quiet rituals designed for people over 60, 70, even 80. They are not meant to exhaust you. They are meant to wake up what's already inside you. Because the truth is, your body still wants to stand. Your legs still want to carry you. Your muscles still remember. They just need a reminder. Let's give them that reminder, gently, wisely, and together. There's a moment that happens quietly in many homes, when rising from a chair feels uncertain, when reaching for the arms of the seat becomes habit, not choice. It's not always pain. Sometimes it's the haunting feeling that the knees might not hold, that they could give in, that the trust you once had in your own legs has begun to fade. And that's what hurts the most. Not the joints, but the loss of confidence. Many think this is just a natural part of aging, but often it's not just muscle loss. It's something more delicate, the fading of proprioception. That's the body's sense of where it is in space. It's how your legs once knew how far to bend, how fast to rise, without needing your eyes or your thoughts to guide them. When proprioception fades, so does that automatic grace. And what takes its place is hesitation, that little pause before standing, that double check before walking. There's a simple way to gently wake up that connection again. Imagine standing with your back against a wall, feet slightly forward, knees bent, just enough to feel a stretch in the thighs. This is called a wall glide. It's not a squat in the gym. It's a quiet conversation between your muscles and your balance. It tells you how your thighs are working. It tells you how steady you are when your body lowers itself with care, and it reminds you that your legs were made to move, not just to rest. In Japan, where elders are often honored not just with words but with movement, physical therapists teach this glide with a twist, a small towel behind the lower back. It might seem minor, but it brings the spine into alignment, encouraging the deep postural muscles to join in, not just the big surface ones, but the quiet stabilizers deep inside. The ones that whisper strength when we need to stand tall. The beauty of this movement is in its simplicity. Just 5 gentle glides. Hold each one for 5 seconds. Breathe deeply, not fast, not forcefully. And do this 3 times a week, that's all. It's not about repetition. It's about intention. About teaching your knees and hips and core to speak to each other again. like old friends who haven't shared a meal in years. Because every glide is more than a test. It's a rehearsal, a quiet practice for standing tall without fear, for trusting the ground beneath your feet, for looking at your reflection and knowing, even if your hair has turned silver and your steps have slowed, that you still carry the strength to rise. There's something strange that happens with time. Our legs may still carry us forward, but somewhere along the way, the body forgets how to walk with intention. The feet begin to shuffle. The steps become smaller, more cautious, not because we're tired, but because the quiet communication between the brain and the feet has started to blur. That connection, once as natural as breathing, begins to weaken, and when that line of communication fades, the risks quietly rise. It's not always the muscles that need strengthening. Sometimes it's the signal, the coordination between mind and movement, the little reflexes that tell us where our foot is landing, how firm the step is, how balanced the shift. When this awareness dulls, our body loses its natural sense of rhythm, and a misstep, just one, can lead to a fall. There's a movement that reawakens this pathway. It may look simple, walking in a straight line, one foot placed directly in front of the other, heel touching toe, slowly, with purpose. But within that quiet sequence, something extraordinary begins to happen. The brain pays attention, the muscles adjust, the feet remember. It's more than walking. It's training the body to speak clearly with itself again. In the mountain villages of Sardinia, people grow old differently. Not because of miracle foods or secret supplements, but because their paths demand it. Cobblestone alleys, uneven trails, and sloping earth, every step must be mindful. They don't walk through life, they walk with it. Each movement is a small conversation with the ground, a dialogue that keeps the reflexes alive and the balance sharp. At home, even a hallway can become sacred ground, a strip of tape on the floor, a line to follow, eyes open at first, then with time briefly closed, letting the feet take the lead while the brain listens more closely. It's not about performance, it's about presence. And in that presence, balance begins to return. This movement teaches something powerful. It teaches the feet to speak again, not just to move. And it teaches the brain to listen, not just to command. Before we fall, the body always gives a whisper, a small tilt, a shift in weight, a lack of clarity. But when that dialogue is alive, we notice it. We catch ourselves. We remain upright. So let the steps be slow. Let them be deliberate. Because each one is a reminder that your connection to your own body is not gone. It's only waiting to be called back. And in every quiet walk, balance is not just regained, it is remembered. There's a fear that many carry quietly, even if they don't speak it aloud. It isn't just the fear of falling, it's the fear of not being able to get back up, of lying there, waiting, unsure, helpless. It's the fear of being alone with gravity, with no guarantee of return. That fear doesn't come overnight. It builds over time, moment by moment, as the simple act of rising becomes less certain, more effortful. And slowly, without even noticing, we begin to avoid the floor altogether. But the floor is where we once lived. We sat on it as children. We knelt on it to clean, to garden, to play. It was never an enemy. It was part of life. And in that distance that forms between us and the ground, something precious is lost. Not just mobility, but independence. Not just strength, but confidence. Relearning how to go from floor to standing is not a test of power. It is a ritual of return, a chance to reweave the thread between body and earth. And the muscles it awakens, in the hips, the glutes, the core, are not cosmetic. They are the foundation of autonomy. They're the ones that help you rise from bed, step into the bath, climb onto the bus. They are the silent protectors of daily life. There's a woman I once heard about, 81 years old, who had stopped tending her garden because the ground felt too far away. She didn't trust her body anymore, but she missed the earth. She missed the smell of mint, the softness of the soil under her nails. So she began a quiet practice, 3 times a week no more, of rising from a soft mat, using a low stool and the wall for support. It wasn't easy, but it was hers. And 2 months later, she was back among her plants, whispering to the tomatoes, pulling weeds with her bare hands. That's the kind of strength that matters, not the kind that lifts weights, but the kind that lifts you off the floor with calm. A yoga mat, a steady surface, a breath that leads the way. 3 lifts, no hurry. And with each one, the memory returns. I can still do this. This body is still mine. Getting off the ground is not about proving anything. It's about reclaiming something that was never meant to be lost. Your relationship with your own body, your trust in its rhythms, your right to rise in your own time with your own strength, breath by breath, step by step. And one day, without thinking, you'll find yourself on the floor again, not in fear, but in peace, ready to get back up. Because now, you know you can. Before we continue, let me ask you something. When was the last time you practiced getting up from the ground? Not because you had to, but because you wanted to stay strong enough to do it on your own terms. There's something waiting in the pinned comment that might speak to you. A small idea, a gentle tool, a reminder that your strength isn't behind you. It's right here, still reachable. Take a look when you're ready. Now, let's turn to a part of the body that's often forgotten, but speaks up loudly when it's neglected. The ankles. When people speak of strength, they often mention the back, the legs, the arms, but almost no one speaks of the ankles. They sit quietly beneath us year after year, bearing the weight of our lives without complaint, until one day, they don't. A twist, a wobble, a stumble that comes from nowhere, and we realize that somewhere along the path those quiet joints have grown weak, stiff, unsure. But here's what many never hear. The ankle is more than a joint. It is a sensor, a stabilizer, a messenger between the ground and the brain. When we begin to lose balance, it's the ankle that sends the first alert. It shifts, it adjusts, it saves us from falling. If it's flexible and strong, it responds. If it's forgotten and stiff, it fails to speak up, and by then, it's often too late. Ankles are often left out of the conversation, but they are essential to the orchestra of movement. They allow us to recover from slips, to pivot, to change direction. And in those first critical seconds of a misstep, they are the difference between standing and falling. That's why cultures that still move close to the ground, who walk barefoot, who squat daily, tend to fall less. In rural parts of Korea, in the small villages of India, elders move with surprising agility, not because they train in gyms, but because their daily life keeps their ankles awake. Even now, at any age, that awareness can be restored. Picture this. Sitting quietly, tracing the alphabet in the air with your toes. Each letter is a stretch, a rotation, a conversation between muscles and nerves, or lifting the foot against the gentle resistance of a band, not with force, but with intention. 10 minutes, not to exhaust but to remember, to remind those forgotten joints that their work still matters, because the ankle is your early warning system. It catches what the eyes miss. It corrects what the hips delay. It reacts before the body falls, and if trained with care, it becomes your first and best defense. We don't speak often of ankles. They are too close to the ground, too humble to boast, but they carry the story of our steps. They carry our balance, our history, our hope. And when we honor them, with breath, with movement, with simple attention, they repay us with safety, with steadiness, with the quiet strength to stand again and again and again. Most falls don't happen straightforward. They come from a twist, a turn, a sudden shift in direction, reaching for a drawer, catching a falling cup, turning too quickly to answer the door. These aren't dramatic moments. They are everyday movements, but they call upon something very specific, a group of muscles many people stop using without even realizing. The muscles along the sides of the body, the ones that brace us, stabilize us, catch us before the ground does. These muscles, the obliques, the hip stabilizers, the lateral lines, are rarely mentioned in routine health advice, yet they are vital. They are the anchors that hold us steady when life moves sideways, and life, as we know, rarely moves in a straight line. In past generations, these muscles were trained naturally. Think of sweeping a floor, gathering laundry, reaching into the back of a cupboard, turning to greet someone. These movements were part of daily life. They weren't counted or scheduled. They simply happened again and again, keeping the body supple, responsive, alive. But now, many of us move in straight lines. We walk forward, we sit, we stand, we move with less variation, and slowly the body forgets how to respond to the unexpected. It loses the reflex to twist, to catch itself. to reach and stay balanced. And that's when a stumble becomes a fall. There's a quiet way to bring these reflexes back. Standing or seated, one arm slowly reaching to the side while the opposite leg extends in the other direction. A diagonal stretch across the body. A gentle lift of a light object, a book, a soup can, from one side to another. Not to build bulk, not to strain, but to restore the forgotten pathways. To remind the body how to move with depth and dimension. Because we don't always fall forward. Sometimes we twist. Sometimes we reach too far. And when those muscles have been left asleep for too long, the body can't answer the call. But when they are gently awakened, something shifts. Balance improves, reactions return, and a quiet confidence comes back. Not from what we can lift, but from what we can prevent. The side of the body is like the edge of a field, often overlooked but essential to the whole. When tended with care, it protects everything else. It holds the center steady. It responds before the fall even begins. And in that, it gives us something deeper than strength. It gives us presence, preparedness, peace. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara once said, "People who don't fall, walk more. People who walk more, live longer." In those few words lies the quiet truth of aging with autonomy. To walk without fear is not a luxury. It is the very foundation of daily life. Not just for getting from place to place, but for keeping the spirit alive, steady, and connected. The movements we explored today are not just exercises. They are ways of reminding the body what it already knows. How to stand tall, how to shift weight, how to respond when the unexpected happens. They are not about performance or appearance. They are about staying ready for the moments that matter. Bending to tend a plant, reaching for a teacup, standing up to answer the door. There is no need to master everything at once. Even a single, intentional move can begin to reawaken the quiet systems of balance and control. Your muscles still remember. Your nerves still respond. The signal may be quieter now, but it's there, waiting for a reason to return. Dr. Peter Attia reminds us to train today for the version of ourselves we want to be years from now. Not to impress anyone, not to meet some standard, but to keep doing the things that make us feel like ourselves, moving through the world without depending on others for every step. So ask yourself, if something this simple could keep you steady, would you begin today? Not out of fear, but out of love. Love for your independence, for your routines, for the small freedoms that bring peace. Walking to the mailbox, picking up a grandchild, sleeping at night without the memory of a fall. Start with one move, one repetition. Let it become part of your rhythm. You don't need to change everything. You just need to continue moving gently and with purpose. And in that, you may find that strength was never gone, only waiting to be called by name again.